Well, hello, and thank you as always for tuning in. This is episode 92 of the podcast, which means that we've almost hit episode 100. I just want to say thank you for tuning in and listening. As I've mentioned before, starting a podcast is something that I had thought about for a really long time and never thought I would get here, but here we are, and I'm grateful to have you listening to me today. Today, we're going to talk about this idea that when we're saying yes to things, we are saying no to something else. And this episode is coming about in particular today because today we had another meeting of my group, Healing Perfectionism in Women Physicians. And we were talking about Brené Brown's book, The Gifts of Imperfection, which is the basis for the program, and particularly guidepost number 9. Which is cultivating meaningful work and letting go of supposed to. Part of the activity for this particular session has to do with identifying something that is our gift or talent and what is the dark side of that. And it came up in conversation that one of the participants was saying that she had a particular skill for organizing. And so she often got asked by other people to help organize different events or different components of her kids' sports teams, things like that. And part of her was, excited that she was asked to help. Part of her really found this energizing, but it often came at the cost of saying no to herself. That no that we say to ourselves or to somebody else is often not overt. It is covert. It is not usually us saying, yes, I will organize the soccer teams, the upcoming events. And no, I will have to say no to myself, for the exercise plan that I had planned to start, for example. We don't often say that no to ourselves out loud, but it's still there and it's still important and it still has an impact. And so we're going to talk more about that today in the episode. There's a wonderful idea that comes from the Life Coach School where I did my coaching certification, which is to say no when yes is a lie. And I love that idea because it makes it much more explicit. How often do we say yes to something when we really don't want to, when we're saying yes through gritted teeth? And our people-pleasing parts tend to really feel that's uncomfortable. It's too risky, right? To not say yes. And so we do. But we often don't really examine, in detail, the effects of the yes. Saying yes to this means I'm saying no to something else because there is finite time and energy in the world, right? There's finite time and energy and attention in our lives. And if we are saying yes to participating in a committee, for example, that we're probably saying no to whatever activity we'd normally be doing at that time, like, a lunch break, for example, which, as we know, is not something that really, really happens for most physicians. But you understand what I'm saying. When we're saying yes to something, we are saying no to something else. And I want to talk about the impacts of this as it relates to a few different areas in our lives. We're going to talk about this related to our important relationships in life, whether that's our legal family or our chosen family or friends. We're going to talk about it as it relates to our health. And we're going to talk about it as it relates to us as a person. And I'm separating this concept of, saying no to our health from saying no to ourselves, because I think those two things can be a little bit different, even though the difference we see a little bit subtle, we mentioned here, right? So let's start with when we are saying yes to whatever it is, and we're saying no to our family or friends. Think of a scenario where perhaps you've got plans that are going to happen after work with other people. And that might be as simple as family dinner. It might be a kid's soccer match. It might be meeting somebody, to catch up after work. But something rolls in to clinic or to the hospital, right? You're asked to take another patient. Someone asks, oh, can't you just do, this one thing? The patient comes, and despite having been asked 4 times that they had any paperwork, they produce paperwork at the end, right? And you say, yes, I will take care of that, even though they had their opportunity. That one always drives me nuts. I don't know why people do that, but again, in that context, let's say it's the situation with paperwork, right? Paperwork is produced at the end of the visit. The patient said, can you just fill this out? And again, despite the circumstance of having been asked several times, was there any paperwork for the visit? But here the paperwork is. They're asking you to do it right now. You know you've got this other obligation. You're already probably running a little bit tight on time. What happens when you say yes? You are saying no to being on time or whatever that other obligation is. You might not think about it that way, right? But what happens to your relationships when you are constantly showing up late, frazzled, already feeling frustrated and resentful, perhaps, because you didn't really want to do that paperwork. You didn't really think it was right. They were given the opportunity to make the paperwork a part of the visit, and they chose to keep it as this secret extra thing. And you, in your unwillingness to feel the discomfort of disappointing them, agreed to take it on. And I don't mean that in a harsh, mean way. We are people who really want to help others. We want to take care of our patients and get their needs met. But that sometimes makes us really bad with boundaries. And we don't realize the impact that we're having on our relationships because we're constantly showing up late or, again, frazzled and not present. That is damaging to relationships over time because in our meaningful, not at workplace relationships, we are being unreliable. And we're not being unreliable because we are, lazy, terrible people, right? We're not just flaking out. We are constantly making the choice that other people matter more. And certainly, let's leave time and space for true emergencies. True emergencies do happen to us. They happen to us in clinic and hospitals and multiple other settings, right? Where there's true medical emergency. But this person's paperwork is not an emergency. It's something that they present as urgent, but again, they had opportunity and they chose to not make it convenient for us, chose to ask us to do something outside of their appointment time because they wanted to talk about other things or, they conveniently forgot or any other number of circumstances. And we, in our unwillingness to embrace the discomfort of saying no to them, we are saying no to those other people in our lives. We're saying no to being on time. We are saying no to being reliable in that vein. And that does make a difference, right? It impacts our sense of ourselves, but it also impacts and strains those relationships. And I think we've all experienced that to some degree. So recognizing in this situation that if you are saying yes to something that is not truly urgent, emergent, and you're probably getting the opportunity, unfortunately, to do that multiple times per day, multiple times per week, there's a cumulative effect on your relationships and one that is not favorable, right? Although your friends and family may realize the importance of your job, they also may hear from you, oh, this patient had this paperwork. Oh, they just kept asking me to take on one more thing, knowing that there's also truly not a medical emergency and they're always feeling like they're last in your life. Let's think about it also, as we mentioned, from the perspective of our health. When we are saying yes to taking care of patients or, perhaps always putting the needs of our family first, we are often saying no to taking care of our health. And it's because, again, there is finite time and energy in our lives as well as others because we are high achievers and we are highly capable and we are often, again, people pleasers and people who really want to help others. We are often caretakers at home as well as caring professionals. Because of those things, we are often putting our health last, and that might be skipping on sleep because we're too busy catching up with all the paperwork and taking care of everyone else's needs. It might be that we are not exercising, right? Or that we are not eating a proper healthy meal, right? We might be cramming lots of caffeine and, protein bars or donuts that are in the staff lounge. We are often saying no to our health. And not only, of course, does that have real physical impacts, right? Sleep deprivation and, poor nutrition and poor physical activity, but also the stress and guilt we might feel in not being able to, quote unquote, get our act together and take better care of ourselves also has an impact. When I meet physicians and we're talking about the different stressors, that inability to meet their own health goals is so common. And that can be, again, nutrition. It can be physical activity. It can be sleep. I think about how many years I spent so incredibly sleep deprived. And yeah, some of that was because I chose to have children. I chose to breastfeed. Some of it was because I was doing deliveries, right? And I was up all night delivering my patients and then going to clinic the next day. But in all of that, I also wasn't setting boundaries. I also wasn't prioritizing my health. Unless I thought that I was going to be so tired that I would be unsafe to drive, I would go to work. And we have to take better care of ourselves. I don't have to tell you the impact of sleep deprivation, being equivalent to alcohol intoxication, right? Those studies are known. That's why residency hours were cut back in part. I don't have to tell you the chronic effects of the lack of exercise and a lack of nutrition. But unfortunately, we are constantly saying yes to other people and no to those aspects of our health. And it's time to decide that we're no longer willing to say no to our health, right? We might be inconveniencing somebody by choosing to exercise instead of, let's say do something with our kids. We might be inconveniencing people because we're going to choose to sit and take 10 minutes in the middle of our day to eat a nutritious meal, even though we've been working straight through and the afternoon has started. It's time to move on, but we're going to choose to prioritize our nutrition. It might mean that we don't get things done in the extra work project that we were asked to take on, and we chose to go to bed. When we are thinking about what we are saying yes to, we need to recognize that we are often saying no to our health. And again, we need to understand that we will feel uncomfortable when we choose to say no to other people, but not saying no, not being willing to say no to other people means that we're ignoring these things for ourselves. The third area that perhaps has the highest impact really ultimately on our lives is saying no to ourselves. And that is a much more sneaky no to ourselves. But when we are constantly disappointing ourselves, when we are constantly feeling like we can't get things done, that we are always last on the list, that we always have to take care of all the other humans in our lives before ourselves, that we're so unwilling to disappoint other people, that we are devaluing ourselves over and over again, right? Our training involved devaluing ourselves, right? Putting ourselves lower on, the personhood hierarchy because our need for sleep, our need for water, our need to use the bathroom, our need to eat, our need to express human emotions always had to be lower than our need to take care of patients or our need to appear teachable and polite and, professional. That was already a very significant devaluing of ourselves for most of us. There are probably some of us who escaped from training not having done this, but for many of us, we learned that we ourselves and our needs were less important than the needs of other people. When we are constantly saying yes to other things, whether that is frustratingly often unpaid work or, being asked to bring something at the last minute for the potluck or the kids' event at school. When we are constantly saying yes to other people, we are saying no to ourselves. And there is a repeated subconscious reminder over and over again that we matter less than other people in our own lives. And that has a detrimental effect. No wonder we continue to seek external validation. No wonder we continue to struggle with feeling better. No wonder we are easily gaslit in many situations. No wonder we are flattered when somebody asks us to participate in something. No wonder we don't try for a promotion when we don't meet all the marks, right? That's something that's seen in many professional women, not just in physicians, right? But women will not tend to apply for a job if they don't meet all the qualifications that are listed out, whereas our male colleagues will tend to apply and they will tend to get a job. We have been devaluing ourselves, and it's not only because we're saying no to ourselves over and over again, no to the things that we want, no to the things that we need, but that's at least part of it, right? We're reinforcing that story that our needs and wants can last. We need to stop doing that because it's leaving us feeling exhausted, overwhelmed, frustrated, resentful, angry. It's leading to burnout, depression, anxiety, insomnia. It's unfortunately probably leading to the really high rates of suicide that occur in female physicians in general, but more particularly female physicians, right? Because female physicians are one of the quote unquote more successful groups in completing suicide. If you are constantly devaluing yourself, and then especially when difficult circumstances arise, it's no wonder that people think that this is the only way out. That's a little darker than I intended to go, so I apologize for that. But I think it's important that we highlight that saying no to yourself over and over again is not benign. It's quite malignant, right? It's quite toxic to our sense of self-worth, our self-compassion, our ability to function and thrive. And we deserve to be able to do that. We deserve to be able to take great care of ourselves, to set boundaries and limits with others, to understand that we do have finite time and attention and energy, and we shouldn't feel like we have to do it all for other people. But in picking that path, and picking the path of boundaries and taking care of yourself, especially if you are a people pleaser, especially if you have traditionally taken care of others before yourself always, and people know you for that, and they know that they can count on you and they come to you, you are going to disappoint some people. And that's not being mean. It's not being wrong, not impossible for you. It's just something that's going to happen. And the discomfort may get better over time, but don't see the discomfort as a sign that something has gone wrong. Nothing has gone wrong. Whenever we change a habit, including the habit of people pleasing, including the habit of always saying yes, of always being agreeable, always being the team player, right? Of always being the go-to. When we change a habit, we will experience some discomfort. We will have to think about it more. We will have to slow things down. It is much easier to follow in the same old ruts and keep to the well-worn path. We continue to disappoint ourselves, to neglect our health and our friends and family and important relationships. It's much easier in many ways to do that, right? We become used to disappointing the people in our lives, including ourselves. That becomes the default. When we choose to stop doing that, we will feel the discomfort. And we will get pushback from other people, especially other people who are used to getting what they want from us. Again, maybe not in a malicious way. There's probably some people who are really pushing it in terms of what they're asking. But a lot of the people in our lives are just used to relying on us. They're not being mean or evil. They're not trying to ruin your day. But you will still need to disappoint good people. You will still need to disappoint people who are used to counting on you. And you can do so kindly and clearly. You can explain if you want, if it makes sense, that it's hard for you to say no, that you wish that you could say yes, but right now you're not going to be able to respond to their request. You're not going to be able to join their committee. You're not going to be able to do that paperwork today. Please drop that off at the front desk and we'll take care of it within a week according to our clinic policy. People can choose to be upset with you. That's okay. We don't control that. We never did. If you constantly seek to make other people happy, you will continue to disappoint yourself. You will continue to neglect your health and let down other important people in your lives. If you want to make a change, embrace the discomfort. You don't have to love it. You don't have to celebrate it, but accept that it's normal. Accept that it's part of the growth. I invite you to do this work with me. And I say that because this is ongoing work in my own life. Please don't think that because I'm here talking to you each week that I have this all figured out. I absolutely don't. I'm steps in the process. I'm able to see it more and more in my life and see all the sneaky places that it shows up. And I'm able now, unlike for many years, to look at myself with compassion and to be able to see that I said yes to something and that meant I said no to this other thing. And that's not actually the choice that really resonated with me. And I have an opportunity to make a change. And sometimes, yeah, I'll change that plan. Sometimes I won't, right? Sometimes I'll decide, no, I'm not going to do this again, but I will continue with the plan that I have. This is all part of the growth. This is all normal. This is all something that we can choose to do. You don't have to do it, but consider the consequences if you don't, right? Consider the impact on constantly disappointing, again, your loved ones, yourself, neglecting your health. We know where that's gotten us to date, and we can project where that will get us in the future, right? More broken relationships, less and less trust of ourselves, right? Poor health outcomes. We don't want that, and we deserve so much better. Embrace the discomfort. Allow the discomfort to be there. Get some help if you need to. Talk to people who care about you. Talk to a coach, right? This is a lot of the work that I do with physicians and other healthcare professionals is supporting this and normalizing the discomfort, right? Anticipating it when we can. Letting ourselves sit in it, not to wallow, but to just notice what comes up when we are sitting in this place. Notice the thoughts. Notice physical sensations in our body, right? Get the help and support you need if you need it. And many of us do. I didn't do this work on myself alone, but consider the consequences if you don't make these changes. My friends, that's what I have for you today. Thank you, as always, for your time and attention. I sincerely appreciate it. I hope that you will take these thoughts seriously. I hope that you choose to start making changes. And if you want some help, if you're listening to this at the time that the episode is coming out in late November 2023, this is the perfect time because I'm enrolling for my next cohort of hearing perfectionism and women physicians. We start up in January of 2024 and the doors are open right now. That means that you can get in on this opportunity to come and do this work with me in groups, right? In group of women physicians who are also wanting to make changes in their life and looking for support, accountability, and community. You'll find the details on my website, which is www.healthierforgood.com. You won't regret it. And CME is available. So it's the perfect time, especially if you have unused CME funds that are burning a hole in your pocket. Use a realism. Come join us. Thank you again for your time and attention. And until next week, take care.